everybody, and welcome back to Take Juan, and welcome to part 2 of everything I watched at VIFF. Okay, so the first movie I saw at this year's festival in person, in a theater, was The Teacher's Lounge. What I love the most about this film is that the school, or the Teacher's Lounge in particular, in this film, acts as a microcosm of society in and of itself. This movie in its entirety is focused on the idea of, where does evil come from? And can we stop evil? Can we stop evil from existing? And, what is evil in society? Is it one bad apple? Is it a couple of bad apples who do the evil inside this, big basket of apples? Or is the basket in and of itself rotten? Is the basket the one that is bad? Is the basket the one that is turning the apples evil? Okay, I'll begin by saying that in the school where the film takes place, there are some robbery incidents happening. Basically, the students are stealing in classrooms, but also there is someone stealing in the teacher's lounge. So it creates this pretty hopeless situation in which we have children that are being taught by these professors, that are being formed into the future of Germany, into the future of this city, and yet these professors are just as bad and, do the exact same thing that the children are. So, if the role models for these children are also stealing and are also doing all of this stuff, then, how can we expect the children to be any different? So, at points, this movie can be very hopeless because it touches upon that. It touches upon this endless cycle where one generation after the other, and it just never gets broken. The system in and of itself is broken and is, it's lending itself for these instances to exist, for this evil to pop up in society, I guess. And at the center of it all, the main character, she's basically a teacher who is fed up with this, who she's trying her best to be a role model for her students. She's trying her best to just teach good moral and good ethics into her students. And yet, she finds herself trapped in this cobweb of mistrust and this cobweb of hidden interests in every one of the characters. I thought the buildup of tension in this film was absolutely incredible. I thought the red herrings, the misdirections, the different perspectives, the exploration of the idea of truth and the idea of, is there such a thing as an objective truth? These are some of the questions that this movie, The Teacher's Lounge, is very much interested in tackling. I love this movie. I thought the performances were incredible. I thought the buildup of tension, once again, was amazing. I thought the way the school in and of itself was a microcosm for society was very thought-provoking and very philosophically rich. I do have 2 complaints about this film, and first of all, I thought some moments in the film were a bit melodramatic, a bit unrealistic. I can't give examples because I don't want to give anything away, but there are some moments that I'm like, come on. Come on, really? And then my last complaint about the movie is, in my opinion, I think this movie was just missing an ending. I feel like it didn't have an ending. We had this incredible build-up, incredible build-up, but then we never get to see things explode. We never get to see things reaching that climax. And, I've thought about it for a while, and I've asked myself, maybe the film is trying to make a statement about the fact that things in real life don't get resolved, and that's why the ending is ambiguous, so that we viewers, we can draw our own conclusions, and we can conclude what we want, and, that's how real life works. But, I don't know, for me, it felt a bit like a cop-out. It felt like you did a beautiful job building up everything, building up this tension, but then right when you had to cash in that check, right when you were going to give us the payoff, you just didn't. The movie just ended. So that was a bit of a letdown for me, but it's minor. All in all, The Teacher's Lounge, I think it's a great movie, and if I were to give it a score between 1 to 10, I would give it an 8 out of 10, which means I thought it was great. Now, the next movie I saw was Evil Does Not Exist. So Evil Does Not Exist is the newest movie from director Ryusuke Hamaguchi, who, for those of you who don't know, he recently directed Drive My Car, which ended up getting nominated for Best Picture. I'm not the biggest fan of this filmmaker. I'll preface my review by saying this. I am not the biggest fan of this filmmaker. I didn't really love Drive My Car. I thought Drive My Car was very long and very boring. I don't have a problem with slow cinema. I'm okay with slow cinema. I like slow movies if by the end of the film you feel like it was all worth it. You feel like, yeah, okay, it was slow, but the film took me in this journey, and by the end, I feel like I get it. It was necessary. What I do have a problem with is slow movies that, in my opinion, just go nowhere. Those are the films that I call boring. That is what, in my opinion, is the difference between slow cinema and boring cinema. And if you ask me, Drive My Car was pretty boring. I think what didn't work the most for me about Drive My Car is I didn't feel like it was building up to anything. It felt incredibly meandering, which is intentional. The whole point of Drive My Car is to follow this character as he mourns, and he's mourning, and they drive, and he's mourning, and they drive. So, Drive My Car, not the biggest fan of. But this one, Evil Does Not Exist, I went to this movie because it once again got good reviews coming out of Cannes. I thought the title was very interesting. As a philosophy student, I love movies that tackle the idea of, good and evil, and what does it mean to be good? What does it mean to be evil? So, when you make a movie with a title as thought-provoking as Evil Does Not Exist, come on, of course I'm going to go watch it. And I think I'm in the minority by saying this, but I like this more than Drive My Car. I thought Evil Does Not Exist was actually quite good. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was a home run, but I thought it was good. The first 20-30 minutes of the film, it lost me. I was having flashbacks to Drive My Car. I was like, oh my god, here we go again. A very slow movie with beautiful cinematography that ends up going nowhere. That said, after the first 20-30 minutes, they very quickly introduce an antagonistic force, which is basically this company that wants to build this glamping hotel in the middle of this town, of this very rural town. And then I'm like, okay, there you go. There's suddenly tension. It feels like we're building up to something. It feels like these two forces are clashing. And it feels like by the end, we're going to see, do they build the glamping hotel? Do they not build the glamping hotel? So as soon as they introduced that story element, I was like, okay, I'm in. And there's a scene where basically the town people go to a presentation by the people who want to build the glamping, installation. And I thought that scene, that debate in between everyone in the town, incredible. Loved it. Amazing scene. And yeah, overall, I like the movie. It has some pretty nice character moments, specifically when characters are driving. There's a nice interaction concerning, dating apps that I thought it was funny and charming. There's a great moment about, chopping wood. You'll know it when you see it. That said, even though I was enjoying the movie and I was having fun, the ending completely lost me. It just, I don't know. A part of me kind of likes it because it is so weird and it is so out of nowhere. Then, it is thought-provoking. Like, you can't avoid thinking about it. And after the movie was over, the conversations you could hear outside of the movie theater was, what the hell was that? Because that is how weird and strange and out of nowhere it feels. But on the other hand, it also feels strange, out of nowhere, for not really any particular reason. In conclusion, I think Evil Does Not Exist. It's a fine movie. It's a good movie with a slow start and a weird ending that, in my opinion, doesn't really make that much sense. But there's a good chunk in the middle that I was very much enjoying. So if I were to give Evil Does Not Exist a score in between 1 and 10, I would give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's a good movie. Then I saw The Promised Land, and the main reason why I was excited for this movie is because it stars Mads Mikkelsen. For those of you who know me, you know that I've been saying for a while that, in my opinion, the best individual performance I've ever seen in any movie could very well be Mads Mikkelsen in The Hunt. I thought his performance is incredible, and I love him as an actor. He is never bad. He never phones it in. His performances are always through the roof. So as soon as I saw him in the poster, I was like, okay, I guess I gotta go watch The Promised Land. And I thought The Promised Land was a very good movie. It's a historical revenge kind of epic about this farmer who is trying to make this farm in this very untamed place of Denmark. That said, there's another evil rich guy who claims to own all of that land, and he gets jealous of the fact that Mads Mikkelsen is making a farm, and he's basically trying to stop him. And I thought this film was very good. I thought the character of Mads Mikkelsen as like this strong guy who will stop at nothing to make his farm. He will make this work or he will die trying. And I thought that makes for a great protagonist. He's very motivated. It is very clear what his want is, what his desire is, and what his need is. I also thought the rivalry between Mads Mikkelsen and this rich pompous asshole was also very good. It was thrilling, and you just wanted to see the rich guy die. You wanted to see the evil rich oligarch die a horrible death, which reminded me kind of Joffrey Baratheon from Game of Thrones. But I thought that was great. That said, my problems with the movie comes with the fact that I think it is very unfocused. I think the core story of Mads Mikkelsen building a farm, rich guy doesn't want him to build a farm, lovely, focused, beautiful, amazing. But I thought the film adds some extra elements with like some savages. I don't remember how they're called, but like another group of people, and then there's this child. And then there's also this woman, and then they kind of fall in love, and then there's a weird romance with like the cousin of the rich guy, and then there's a lot going on, and by the end I'm like, no, this is not necessary. Just focus on Mads Mikkelsen as the farmer versus this other guy, and that would have been enough. And then it becomes even more confusing because at the end, kind of Mads Mikkelsen stops being the main character. And then the position of main character gets shifted to this younger girl, and I don't know. It felt kind of weird, so it felt kind of unfocused. So overall, I would give The Promised Land a 7 out of 10. I think it's a very good movie, but it would have been a lot better if it would have been just a little bit more focused. Then, the next film I saw was actually, well, spoiler alert, was actually one of my favorite movies of the festival, and is currently one of my favorite movies of the entire year of 2023. This film is Anatomy of a Fall. This is a French movie directed by Justine Triet. And I absolutely loved this movie. There is something about courtroom dramas that lend themselves for some incredible, delicious scripts with some amazing monologues, with some amazing dialogue, some incredible performances. Narrative structure is all about, a clash between different forces, a protagonist and an antagonist. They're constantly clashing. And what better way to frame that clash than with a courtroom drama, where you literally have two sides clashing, the defendant and the prosecutors, and it was just amazing. I think this film, Anatomy of a Fall, is a courtroom drama in its purest way. I think this is a courtroom drama in its most essential, in its most pure, unrefined form. And what I mean by that is this film shows you the entirety of a courtroom drama. Everything that happens in a trial from start to finish. From the moment that, someone gets killed to the very end, to the ending of the trial. I love this film. I thought the script was incredible. I thought the performances were absolutely amazing. The main character is played incredibly by Sandra Hüller, and Sandra Hüller's performance is just outstanding. There is so much subtlety in her performance. There is so much that she shows, in the surface of her face, but there is just as much, if not more, that she's not showing. And every time that you see her, you never know if you should trust her or not. Now, what I love the most about this film is that this is yet another movie that tackles the idea of, is there such a thing as an objective truth? When the movie begins, the crime has already happened, but then we never get a real answer of what actually happened. We hear both sides of the stories, and we see reenactments of both sides of the stories. And then it is up to us, the viewers, to make up our minds and, believe in whatever it is we want to believe in. And I absolutely love that because I feel like in this film, Justine Triet was perfectly able to put us viewers in the shoes of jury members. We are there, we listen to the facts, we listen to the testimonies, we get the evidence, and then we draw our own conclusion, but we will never know for sure if the conclusion we reached is what actually happened or not. Absolutely incredible film. And the last thing I'll say is, what an amazing dog performance. There is a dog that acts in this movie. He has to do things that I've never seen a dog actor do on screen in my life. I'm like, oh my god, give this dog a dog Oscar, or, whatever it is you give to dogs. All in all, I loved Anatomy of a Fall. Of course, the title is very much a homage to another very famous courtroom drama called Anatomy of a Murder. Anatomy of a Murder is also an incredible, incredible film, but I love Anatomy of a Fall. It is one of my favorite movies of the year. If I were to give it a score between 1 to 10, I would give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's as good as a courtroom drama can get. I think it's exceptional. I think it's a perfect, beautifully written, beautifully acted movie. Definitely check that one out. Now, the last film I saw on the 30th of September was actually my favorite movie of the entire festival, and also one of my favorite movies of the year. And this is an incredibly experimental movie. It is a film unlike anything I've ever seen before, and it is the newest film from Jonathan Glazer called The Zone of Interest. For those of you who don't know, The Zone of Interest, it's another movie without a plot. It's not a narratively driven movie. It's not a plot-driven movie. This is very much a slice-of-life movie where you're following a family. You're following a family in their day-to-day life. The only caveat is that the family you're following is a family of Nazis, and they live right next to Auschwitz. This is a soul-crushing movie. This is an incredibly powerful movie that does a great job, first of all, of depicting the horrors of Nazi Germany and, depicting the horrors of Auschwitz and all of these concentration camps. But it is a fascinatingly experimental film in the sense that, we never see the horrors. We always follow this family. We see them in their house. We see them baking pies. We see them making food. We see them drinking. We see them going to bed. We see them playing with their toys. So in the foreground, we don't really see any of the horrors. But in the background, the horrors are always there. We can always see smoke coming out of chimneys in the background. We can see ashes falling from the sky. We can hear screams. We can hear gunshots. And it is, once again, incredibly soul-wrenching and incredibly powerful. And I think what I absolutely loved about The Zone of Interest is that, yes, The Zone of Interest does a great job of showing you, these Nazis as this horrible people who did some horrible things, but it takes it a step further. And, Jonathan Glazer himself has talked about this in different interviews. I think in Cannes, when the film premiered, he even mentioned this, and that is the fact that what he was really trying to do with this film is, yes, to show Nazis as this horrible people who did this horrible things, but to also show them as humans. Because that is what is the most disturbing about, Nazis and about this period of history. That the people who did all of these horrible, heinous things were humans. They were still human beings. And by making this film, by showing us this slice of life narrative of this, Nazi family, we are forced to confront the fact that these Nazis are a lot more like us than we would like to admit. They come from work and they take off their boots and they go fishing and they have pool parties and they play and they kiss behind their house. They are humans, and that is what is so disturbing. This film is a perfect exploration of, what philosopher Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil. The idea that anyone is capable of evil. And that is what is the most disturbing about this movie. That Nazis are human beings. That real human beings were capable of doing this heinous, horrible, atrocious things. It is a very powerful movie. It is not a movie that is easy to watch. It is incredibly disturbing, not only because of the things that are depicted in the backgrounds, but also because of the implications and the ideas that this film proposes. The idea that we are all capable of evil, that all humans are capable of evil under the right circumstances. And that is just bone-chilling. Incredibly powerful film. I absolutely loved it. And then there are also, by the way, some very experimental, weird moments interspersed between the movie where we see colors and we hear loud noises, and then there is some black and white negative imagery, which is also incredibly thought-provoking, which I won't delve into it right now because I don't want to spoil anything. The last thing I'll say about The Zone of Interest is the ending. The ending does something I would have never expected. It is extremely Brechtian, in the sense that it takes you out of the film. It takes you out of the narrative, intentionally so, in a perfect way. And that ending just helps drive the point even more. If I were to give The Zone of Interest a score in between 1 to 10, I would give it a 10 out of 10. I think it is... I think this film is a piece of art. I think this film is an incredibly important, powerful, soul-crushing, incredibly philosophically dense movie that I frankly will never forget. Also, the sound design. The sound design was incredible. So yeah, if you feel like this is a film you might be interested in watching, definitely go watch it. But do know it is disturbing, it is hard to watch, it is not for everyone. But that is it for part 2 of everything I watched at VIFF. I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for the next part. Goodbye.